First, we're gonna do roll call. Vice President Stockman. Here. Chief of Staff Sanders.
Here.
Chair Newby. Here. Chair Friends.
Here.
Chair Brown.
Here.
Chair Sawyer. Here. Senator Johnson. Senator Stuka, Senator Splitstozer. Senator Boards.
Here.
Senator Haynes.
Here.
Senator Thapa.
Here.
Senator Shakar.
Here.
Senator Stout. Senator Tibbetts is excused. Senator Hennick, also excused. Senator Annenberger.
Here.
Senator Rabb.
Here.
Senator Martin.
Here.
Vice Johnson.
Here.
Dino students talking. Right, moving on to approval of the agenda. As you can see, we have a few items in new business. Is there any amendments to the agenda, Chair Friends?
I would like to add a discussion on major and career career services.
Let's look at it. Is there a second for this amendment? Second by Vice President Stockman. Everyone in favor of this amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Objections? Abstentions? Seeing none, amendment passes. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? Senator Martin?
Under old business, no one had continued discussion on last Monday.
Because it's old business. So you said it was tabled?
Yeah, it was last Monday.
Is there a second for this amendment? Second by Chair Sawyer. Is there any dissent to passing this amendment? Is that a dissent?
Yeah, I think we should just talk about it in the email. There's not really a lot of people here.
Again, since it's a dissent, we need to take a vote. So everyone in favor of passing this amendment, please signify by raising your right hand. Objections? Abstentions? Got 7 yes and 5 abstentions with 2 opposed. The amendment still passes. So, are there any other amendments? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by Vice President Stockman. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Shakar. Everyone in favor of approving the agenda, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Objections? Abstentions? Seeing none, agenda passes. Agenda approved as written. Approval of minutes. These are the minutes from last meeting. Are there any amendments to the minutes? As you all have gotten it in the email. Going once, going twice. Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes? Vice President Stockman?
Move to approve the minutes. That's right.
Is there a second? Second by Chair Brown. Is there any dissent to passing the minutes? Seeing none, minutes approved as written. Moving on to public hearing. There we have a guest speaker. Rob, I would invite you to the floor. If you want to connect your laptop, that is okay.
So I'd like to talk a little bit about the technology fee, just kind of give you a review as we're starting to plan for technology fee fiscal year 2019. Just wanted to recap a little bit on the usage of the technology fee in this past year, 2018. Okay, 1 second. Okay. So this is a top-level view of basically how we spent the tech fee in fiscal year 2018. So for those of you who don't know, you obviously pay a tech fee. Currently, that tech fee is at $10 per credit. It's capped at that amount. And the tech fee is used to provide for academic and student support activities that enhance student access to technology. Some of those things include technology infrastructure, labs, wireless networks, ongoing support initiatives, and software licensing. So sometimes when we look at using the technology fee, we split the cost. So we say this service works with students and it also supports employees. So students shouldn't pay for all of it, they may pay for a percentage of it, and the other comes out of a non-tech fee budget. So when we talk about student-employee split, that's kind of where we get that from. So the VSU tech fee in fiscal year 18 was approximately $1.2 million. So the tech fee budget was used to support 9 primary categories, all relating to supporting students. So anything from staff training of IT staff to salaries of student workers. So we'll just run through these briefly and have a chance for you to ask questions. So ITS staff training. So in relation to how we make available some technologies that support student services and activities, we need to train our staff to be familiar with those types of services. So in this case, we sent Mike Smith off to get some training about a Cisco Wi-Fi upgrade. And we use tech fees to pay for some of that training. ITS software. So this is software that's used in the ITS department exclusively. It's not made available in labs and campus, and also supports services that we offer to students. So for example, LabStat software is a software that we install that takes a look at what labs are being used for what. That helps us address deployment of labs and computers and move things around and see if we're being successful and where we think labs should be. And then we have some software that's used for disaster backup and recovery. So if our network goes down, something terrible happens, we're able to move stuff off-site, typically to Northwest Tech, and then it would be able to restore that in case of a catastrophic event. Network hardware. So again, this is switches, wiring, mostly wireless access points. Fiscal year, we spent some money on access point as well as switches. If any of you are in the IT knowledgeable about IT things, you know that this stuff is not cheap. So network switches can cost a lot of money. Contract payments. So these are annual financial obligations that we must pay every year. So these are things, maintenance subscriptions. Again, for people not in IT, maintenance is, think of it as an extended warranty. So every year you buy a fancy piece of equipment, you have to buy support to get the updates. It's not like on your phone where this is, oh, a new update available for free. No, you have to buy that subscription to be able to get those things. So maintenance subscriptions that we have to pay for Wi-Fi. Minstate Office 365 subscription, that's a student share. Obviously, students don't shoulder the burden of that entire cost. The NETS system, which is the ITV rooms. So when we present classes to remote offices or remote classrooms, the NETS subscription comes out of that. And the Blackboard Connect emergency alert system. There's an annual fee that's hopefully you never see that thing work, but if it does, it has to work right. Student printing. So TechFeed covers the student costs for printing. Currently, there is a limit to this, so it's all paid for by TechFeed. One of the things that I know that comes up from time to time about how you like to approach this, but currently this is the model that is it. Software licensing. So this is our Microsoft agreement. So it includes our purchasing the licensing to use the OS. So we're installing Windows 10 on the computers in the labs, and Mac OS for the Macintosh computers. We have to buy that. It's for the software licensing for Office, again, mostly for labs. Adobe licensing, Creative Cloud, you'll see that on all the lab computers as well. Qualtrics survey software, other software packages like SPSS, some statistical software, you'll see on computers in labs also. Currently, our lab computers have approximately 140 applications on them. So we tried to make it as well-rounded as possible. So if you're trained on any application in your classes, go to the lab, you're most likely going to find that software there. TechFeed doesn't cover all of those softwares. Many of those come from the departments as well, but these are the big ones that the TechFeed does cover. So again, and if you notice, these are kind of going in more least expensive to most expensive. So lab and classroom upgrades, Windows, Mac, and Linux computers for public labs. So in fiscal year 18, we had a freeze. We're kind of in a budget crunch last year, this year again. So we did not do a refresh on lab computers, but what we did do is buy some upgrades. So we bought some solid state drives and we tried to improve the boot times of the computers in the labs. Hopefully we made a difference there. We bought some Windows 10 lab computers, and we used some of that TechFeed money to upgrade projectors and some classroom technology as well, including portable systems, hearing loop systems, transducer systems for adaptive listening devices. Online fee. This is a mandatory min-state fee that supports delivery of the infrastructure of D2L and other online services. So online students pay the tech fee. So even though they may not get the benefit of being on campus and all these great labs and stuff like that, they do benefit from the infrastructure that the tech fee covers. So this is a fee that we pay to the provider of our online services, D2L, which then administers that product to the rest of the campuses. So this goes to support all students, including those of you on campus who are using D2L, as well as our online students that use it as the primary classroom. Salaries. So these are salaries for ITS staff and student workers that support students and student services. So a lot of our help desk staff, our lab support staff, classroom technology staff, those employees within the IT department who are dedicated and whose focus is on classroom success and support are paid partially from IT, from tech fees. This also covers all the student workers in those areas. So those are the primary 9 categories that your tech fee covered. So tech fee, we're now just started getting into the early stages of planning for fiscal year 19. Obviously, this is tech fee is based on enrollment. So we're kind of figuring out what that is looking like, so we get a sense of how much money we may see starting to come in, and we start building up our budget. We anticipate spending would be comparable to those 9 areas I just covered. We don't see anything radically changing too far that way. We do see some Mac and Windows Lab upgrades coming in fiscal year 19. Like I said, we had a freeze last year. We can only do that for so long. We need to sort of bring those up to date. Right now, we're reaching out to faculty to ask them about what is it that you need for 19. Just because you have 12 computers in this lab right here, should we replace all 12 with brand new machines? So looking at that LabStat software I was mentioning before, we're taking a look at the usage of those rooms. You know, maybe the average usage of this lab is 12%. Does it make sense to replace all those machines? Maybe we can just do 6 computers instead of 12 in there and utilize the 6 in other places where we see more need. So we're doing that analysis now and trying to find the best use of tech fee as we distribute that across campus. So one of the things that we haven't had for a while, and I think it's kind of we've had some, if you've been here a couple years, you know that we had some leadership in the CIO area. and we don't currently have a dedicated CIO. We have an interim CIO now. But one of the things that we would like to do, and we should have been doing, but we haven't yet, is come up with a technology fee committee. And Ash and I were just talking about that earlier today. This is something that I would like to see us put together, and I would love to be a part of that. I included some links that I sent earlier today, kind of give you an idea on that, of what that is. But it's pretty much a student-led group that takes a look at these proposals, kind of looks more closely at the budget. We make some recommendations, or you make some recommendations. I'll help you with that, and we'll put a proposal together to see how we want to use this technology fee. So based on conversations we have, hopefully we're using your fees in the way that you want them to be used. Essentially, that's it. I'm welcome, or I'm available to come back anytime. I think, did you say next week, maybe the 1 more or something?
Yeah, definitely Rob and I spoke about the technology fee committee, and it's a committee that exists in most other mid-state universities except us. So hopefully, but next week we can talk more about it on the Senate, what they think about the structure that you sent me, and we're probably gonna draft the committee using the structure that you provided, and talk to Dr. Grand and the rest of the administration and see how we can facilitate that so that we can have the committee starting next year.
Awesome. Yeah, however I can help.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
Senator Borges.
I just had a quick question.
Sure.
You said that printing was all covered under the student tech fee.
For students.
What do you ever see that changing, or is it always going to be that way?
It's a good question. I asked about it too, and I think I've heard comments before from students about, is that the sustainable way to do it? Should we incentivize less printing by making people pay for it, etc. That topic does come up from time to time, and we're certainly willing to entertain that and talk about that. One of the things that I've heard is putting in place the process by which that is measured or controlled. The cost of doing that was very expensive.
Yeah.
And so it was actually, based on what it's actually being used, it's less to leave it as it is than it is to put it in a place that monitors it and actually controls that printing. So I was surprised to find that out.
Yeah.
So when you look at those kind of competing ideas, it's maybe just leaving it efficiently. But we can certainly talk about that. There's lots of ways to go about that. I know that we're working on getting some, it's called Follow Me printing. I don't know if you've heard about that, but using the one card, be able to have a cloud print queue and be able to go up to any printer and be able to just swipe and your drops come out there. Toshiba I have to tell you this, Toshiba just donated a green copier. I was like, what's a green copier? Well, it is actually green. And what it does is rather than print black pages, it prints blue. So you go to your meeting, you've got 20 pages, you hand out 10, and nobody else wants it. They don't ever walk out, they hand back, you got 20 back again. What do? So this printer, this copier, you feed the paper back in, it removes the toner and puts the paper back into the paper tray. Use it again. It's like, what witchcraft is this? It's amazing. It's really cool. So Toshiba's trying to promote this green technology for us. They gave us one to just play with. So things like that we can do to get on campus, I think, have an impact. So, anyways, if you guys ever have any more questions?
Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, thank you. And I'll bring you back. You were on wireless?
Yes.
You're welcome.
Moving on. First new business item today, nationwide letter to support gun laws reform. So, full business. Yes. I have them. So, the date for last Senate meeting, as you all have seen, hopefully you have on Teams, there is a doodle poll. I would let Chief of Staff Sanders talk about what she found from it.
So right now, the doodle poll was up on the 5th of April, so 6 days ago, and I have 2, 4, 6 people that have actually responded to it. Of those 6 people, we've got half of them are available all the time during the day that I put up. Some of them are only open a couple of hours here, a couple of hours there. So before we make any decision on when we should actually have the meeting, we need to have people do the doodle poll. Okay.
Anyone who's not participated in the Google poll?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
can
can
I-
find it.
sorry.
Can we do that during my cabinet report? During my cabinet report, we'll pull up the actual teams and we'll show you where to actually click to make sure that you get notifications on the teams. Super simple, super easy. If you don't know where to look, then you're gonna have some issues with it. So, but it should be underneath the general activities. If you just go back to April 4th, you'll see the doodle poll there.
Senator Martin.
I'm just seeing April 26th, so is that something?
That was from what we found last meeting. It was the 26th during the day. That was Thursday, the 26th. That was the day that most people were available. However, it was just finding the actual time during the 26th, so we did not make the 24th available. 26th. Anytime between 12 p.m. and I did a super late one as well, all the way through 6 p.m. So starting at 6 p.m.
That was a no class day, so classes should not be a problem, but people just wanted to study later, so that's why we need to figure out the time either earlier or at noon. Seems to be really favorable, but we can revisit this next meeting again. Any other questions, concerns, comments related to this? Seeing none, we're going to move on to new business. First item is the nationwide letter to support gun laws reform. So, student body presidents across the nation came together to write a letter to Congress supporting gun laws reform after the Parkland shooting. It was initiated by the student body president of the University of Virginia. I was contacted by her, and I got in touch with a couple of the student body presidents over there who already signed the letter. And here is the letter. So it reads, on behalf of the number of students, the total number of students we end up representing, student body presidents representing this number of students across the nation, we write to you to respectfully request immediate and lasting reforms to end gun violence in America. Building on the calls to action by 1 million teachers, students, and citizens on March 24th, when they flooded the streets of more than 800 cities worldwide, we demand your leadership. As students, we should be focused on our academics and preparing for careers. We have seen that the growing prevalence of gun violence, both on and off campus, makes that increasingly difficult and has cut short too many of our classmates' lives. Moreover, we understand that gun violence has disproportionately impacted communities and students of color throughout our nation's history. In all the tragic forms that it presents itself, gun violence has been a morbidly distracting reality throughout our academic careers. We've had enough. We refuse to allow more violence. This cannot be the norm or the price of being a student in America. Solutions exist and common sense reforms enjoy broad public support across political ideologies. According to the February 20th Quinnipiac poll, 2 of the 3 Americans support simple gun control measures such as comprehensive background checks and bans on military-style weapons. Recent polling reveals the highest level of national support for reform in the history of polling data. A supermajority of campus police chiefs, college administrators, and faculty and college students have favored decreased guns on campuses for years. While some people pose that more guns on college campuses and open carry laws will increase student safety, research by leading policy and public health researchers reveals just the opposite. Research shows increasing gun availability in campus environments could make far more common acts of aggression, recklessness, or self-harm more deadly, and thus have a deleterious impact on the safety of students, faculty, and staff. Confidence in a safe learning environment is foundational to our educational experience. The repugnant lack of comprehensive action in preventing the next tragedy is deeply disturbing. We call on our representatives at both the state and national levels to pursue practical and consequential measures to put an end to gun violence in America. We maintain faith that you will take seriously the concerns of college and university student leaders who request that you take action to end preventable tragedy. We stand firm in our conviction that enough is enough. We're doing what we can to minimize violence on our campuses and in our communities, but the ultimate responsibility for lasting change is yours. Then we have a couple of references of where we got the information from. And then these are all the university presidents who, student body presidents who signed the letter. From the Min-State system, it was only me and the student body president from Winona State. Any questions related to that? Sandra. We have actually contacted a lot of student body presidents already. So we came together with this letter. I was actually one of the first 10 to 15 people to come to know about it, and I was contacted by the student body president of the University of Virginia, and we did reach out to all the Min-State universities, the community college student body presidents, and student body presidents in some other universities that we have personal contacts with. But this is 66 names, 66 student body presidents. This is all we got so far, but hopefully we'll get more by the end of this month, and we will be sending it hopefully as soon as we think that we have enough of what we do. Any further questions, comments? Seeing none, I'm going to move on in our agenda. Update from Faculty Senate on Senate Bill 1802. So this is the bill, the excused absences for religious observance bill, and Faculty Senate actually has a position on it. We did go to meet with Faculty Senate back in February. We got our feedback from them, but they finally met again last month about the actual bill. They discussed, as you can see, some of the comments over here. There are concerns about what if holidays go longer than a day. Some holidays are a week or 2 weeks long, and I actually had a meeting with the Faculty Senate President, Dr. Webb. What I told him is our intent of the actual list of holidays are limited to single-day holidays because most of the major holidays of the major religions that we saw are being followed by other institutions across the nation are one-day holidays. So there will not be any holidays that are longer than a day. If there are holidays that are longer than a day, then they would probably have to file for another excused absence on a different one. Then they asked about what the student responses were, if Dr. Zhang, from the coordinator from the University Center for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, could has a position on it or could play a role in it. And I told Dr. Webb that obviously we're going to work with all the key players in this, including Brian, Dr. Grant, and the University Diversity and Inclusion Committee. With that, they actually passed a motion supporting the sentiment of the bill, but they said that the procedural details need to be worked out before they fully support its implementation. What Dr. Webb told me personally is the Senate agrees, the Faculty Senate agrees with the intent, and also with the implementation. It sounds like they support us. We just need to make it into a concrete list of holidays and put a concrete policy in place so that they know what they're actually agreeing to. Other than that, I think the next step for us would be to discuss this with the University Diversity and Inclusion Committee, come up with a list of holidays. I also have feedback from University Diversity and Inclusion Committee, which is run by Dr. Deborah Peterson. What their concerns were very similar to what we initially heard from the Student Senate, but the concerns were like, can students misuse the policy? Can students ask for multiple holidays? Yes, Chair Friends.
There's an awesome list of like a ton of holidays on the University of Minnesota website for their spiritual and religious excuses. So I would look at that before going further with that.
Oh yeah, we already have collected list of holidays from, I believe, 9 different universities across the nation, including the University of Minnesota. So basically, they had concerns if students can misuse the policy, but the reason that they had those concerns is because when they discussed it initially, they had the older copy of the bill, not the updated version. So I provided the updated version and explained what changes were made and what the final version entails. And we also got good feedback from the committee, and they also support having such a policy because they think that this would promote religious inclusivity immensely, not only at BSU, but if we can be an example to the rest of the in-state system, then we would be key players when it comes to equity and inclusion, or at least first step towards being a key player. So, any other questions related to this? Seeing none, moving on to Students United April Delegates Update. So last weekend we went to St. Cloud State University. That's where they hosted the final delegates conference of this year. It was mostly packed with all the elections going on. There was the state chair election, the vice chair election, the treasurer election, along with our budgetary discussion, and we had to vote on the fees. So first of all, I want to congratulate Chief of Staff Sanders for getting elected as the student vice chair. And it was a great election, and the state chair elect is the current director from St. Cloud State University, Kayla Shelley. The state treasurer is a delegation member from Winona State University, Elijah Norris, and they will be starting from July 1st. So on other discussion in Delegates Assembly, we had to discuss the budget, and there has been talks about a fee increase because in order to afford all the programming and all the advocacy efforts and all the equity initiatives that we do for students across the mid-state system, we had to increase, we had to look into increasing our fees. So the Delegates Assembly, which comprises of about 65 students, they voted for a 10-cent increase. Our current fee structure is 47 cents per credit per student. They voted for 57 cents. And some of the things that they wanted to see more expenditure or the budget focused on is more state advocacy and more federal advocacy and more equity initiatives. And also the delegation supported the immense, the huge amount of success that we had this year with Students United as we passed the statewide affirmative consent bill, and it became a policy affecting over 375,000 students. So the board took the delegation's recommendation, and the board actually voted to pass an increase of 14 cents instead of 10 cents. The reason being, what the delegation wanted, they wanted 2 state advocacy instead of 1 each year. They wanted more federal advocacy, and they wanted more equity initiatives. So in order to cover all those costs, we had to add about $53,000 to our expenditures, and having a 14-cent increase would actually help us meet all those expenditures as well as sustain efficiently in the future and still have our financial stability. Because currently we run on our revenue deficit because our expenses are more than our revenue. We keep using our building fund that we have had for a couple of years, which is going to run out eventually. So we decided to use the fee. Any questions related to that? Senator Enberg.
Also, the campus committees, whenever we had our meeting, we decided we were going to be doing a campaign about textbook portability. And so the campaign is about, you'll have a person holding either a sign or a whiteboard that says, this semester I spent, and then will be however much they spent on textbooks. And then this could have bought me, and then you'd be like, this many car payments, or something like equivalent, like what you could have spent that money on to show how expensive textbooks are. And so each campus committee, which me and Senator Rapp are both part of, was sent out to go get at least 10 students to do this so that we could have these photos, and eventually they're all going to be put on Twitter so that we can, essentially the state senators and representatives can see them. And I brought a big board, so after the meeting tonight, if some of you would like to do that, if you spent a decent chunk of money on textbooks this semester, that would be awesome.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments related to this? Did I miss something from the delegates conference? Okay. Awesome. Moving on to the discussion on major and career expo. I would yield to Chair Friends.
So Amanda, on behalf of Academic Affairs Committee, met with Margie from the Career Services to talk about the focus assessment used for people who are unclear with their majors or just trying to figure things out. The Major and Career Expo also came up because this is a great way for students to explore different majors and stuff like that. But she said the problem is nobody's going to these. So she wants us to maybe look into a little bit of feedback. Wondering if anybody here has gone to this expo. What are the thoughts? What could they change? Things like that.
Chief Staff Sanders.
The biggest thing that I found with that Career Expo is it has a lot of job opportunities that are great for college students still in college, but not actually dealing with the majors and what they can actually do with the degrees. I know there's a couple of healthcare things that are, Stanford comes in and there's not a lot more. So maybe getting a little bit more with the jobs that are available for once you have your degree.
Any other feedback?
If you're a student, you walk in with, a little bells and whistles, a little bit of technology, and
Spice it up.
yeah, it's not so true.
I would just like to ask you, how would you spice it up? What would you do?
Well, I mean, with some of the marketing, it needs to be a little bit more up to date. We use stock photos. It should be current pictures. You should be able to look at a picture and recognize at least someone in it. I think the majority of people know folks in current programs. So I think we probably need to work with our marketing communication folks to look at some of those things, actually see people, working in fields and those sorts of things, or maybe statements from, recent alum a year or two out. Maybe folks you know, maybe folks you don't know. But it's one of those things where we don't necessarily talk about this, or just like the example that Senator Henneberg did, I did this with this major. I mean, because I don't think that people know all the things that you can do with a major. So I think we need to kind of help them out with some of the generations around those things.
Senator Stelzer.
I was thinking that we might want to get, more teacher kind of participation in on it. I know that in my own classes, just speaking personally, some of the teachers are really great at promoting this and incentivizing their students. Of course, attending is its own reward, and how to translate that to the student, I think, is really important. But that might be a piece that could be improved upon as well, making sure that we have the full support of the entire faculty. I think that would be really great. I think that class announcements, there's some room for improvement there as well. Some students are, some faculty, are really on board. Others, I think might just need a little bit more prodding, especially for those students that are maybe, freshmen, sophomore, that might not take it so seriously or understand how much weight it actually kind of fingers on their future.
The other thing that came up in this discussion was the date is later in October. Amanda and I and Larry were discussing, would it be more beneficial closer to welcome week? Would it be more beneficial second semester and things like that for freshmen? Does anybody have any ideas on that?
Chair Sawyer.
With the welcome week, freshmen, I know especially the ones that I've talked to, they're quite overwhelmed with what they already had.
Closer to.
Closer.
Yeah, rather than the end of October, we could do like the third week of September. Like closer towards welcome week when they're still like wanting to go to things.
Oh.
Representative Sanders.
I highly recommend against moving it closer to welcome week. I personally think, especially if you're going to try and be geared towards freshmen, your first semester is so overwhelming. You're trying to get into a good study group. You're trying to meet new friends, new people. I think that thinking about a job might put a damper on some of the experiences that I think are really important for freshmen for their first semester. So I personally believe that we should move it toward the second end of the second semester, maybe even towards the end when summer's kind of starting to come up, because then they're going to be starting thinking about maybe summer jobs and so on and so forth. That would guilt.
Being a freshman, I think the best time would actually be towards welcome week, because that's when freshmen, to me, my group of friends and stuff, are most active at first, because for some reason later on as you get out of the year, we just stop doing stuff and stop attending events and stuff like that. So either towards the beginning of welcome week or towards the end of the year. Would like to assess.
Chair Brown.
I have to disagree. So I kind of go with first as a freshman too. First semester, you kind of like focus on friends and stuff, and I didn't get my job until like third break-ish, like second semester. I think it's like a better opportunity for like employers and stuff too, because they're kind of getting out of the holidays, everything stuff's slowing down, so like you have time to focus on getting.
Okay, but it is major and career expo. I think there might be more focus on the career in this discussion. This is for people trying to figure out their majors for all. So does that change anybody's answers?
Senator Boards, followed by Senator Morning.
Since you did bring up the major part, would it be better if it was closer to registration second semester, because then freshmen and sophomores and juniors, just in case they want to change their majors or something, have that major and career expo to go to get feedback on what major they possibly want or what classes they would need or something.
Senator Martin.
This doesn't really go along with like when, but promoting it, I think plays a major part in it because with this past major and career expo, I didn't know about it until like the day of. And then I had classes and stuff like that, so I couldn't attend. So promoting them, so I don't really think it's really when it is, I think it's more with the promoting it.
Vice President Stockman.
This is kind of if you have it, so you have students that graduate early, they may take only one semester of the year. If they're looking at that career part, they may still want to go to the career major expo and the careers that are available towards their major. And that way, when they're leaving college that semester, they won't feel like they don't have enough or resources to look out to if they don't have a job already lined up.
Senator Haynes.
I just kind of want to back up what she said, what Senator Ward said. I went to career services about a week before registration, and she reassured me this was not too late to be thinking about a major change. This was like the perfect time to be doing it. So I think if we're thinking about summer jobs as well as majors, a week before spring registration for the next fall is a good idea.
Chief Staff Sanders.
Just a point of information, why do we have it career and major? Because I feel like with the discussion that's happening, there are two completely different things. We have our majors for, our freshmen and our sophomores, and then we have our careers for our, juniors and seniors. And of course, they're going to be wanting different things at different times. So why do we have these combined?
I think we should recommend to have 2 separate events.
I personally think so, but I have a speakers list. I have Senator Shekar followed by Senator Martin.
In my personal opinion, I feel like major and career is very, very linked together instead of being separate, because if someone's trying to figure out a career they're trying to go into, they have to study that career or study about that career and build their knowledge on that, and that's what the majors come on. So if someone's trying to choose a career that they're trying to go into, then now they have to study on that major. And that's why they're going to should come together, in my opinion.
Senator Martin.
I'm going to have to disagree with that. I think separating the events would be great because normally freshmen and sophomores are changing their majors or changing their majors a lot. I know a lot of my friends are changing their majors after the semester because they don't like their major anymore. So maybe having the major expo in the fall and then a career towards like summer, would it be more beneficial for all students? And then that way, all students can go to both also.
Great. Just to keep discussion in order, please let's stick to 2 speaking points each speaker. With that, I have Senator Haynes.
My only recommendation would be if you're concerned about the divide that you're talking about, maybe instead of separating career and major, we separate like an underclassmen and an upperclassmen. We have one for upperclassmen careers and one underclassmen summer jobs and majors, internships.
I think personally what I've noticed in the business department, we do go to career expos and internship related, fairs, job fairs and stuff like that in the cities. So maybe that takes away the attention from this expo, and because a lot of our students go there because better employers are there and more significant employers are there actually. So maybe one way to attract more students would be try to get better employers or more name brand employees, so to speak. I know that we did talk about it in the business department, but one challenge that they've had for years is those employers don't want to travel this far because Bemidji is a very remote area. So it kind of goes hand in hand. But any other feedback, Senator Spostolzer?
I just want to say that I agree. Personally, as well as actually in the business department, I have heard plenty of people kind of say, I don't know who any of those employers are. That's great. There's over 90 employers. I don't know who they are. I see targets on there. Cool. Stop by there. And so I think that that's actually a very valid concern, and that might want to be looked at. Or they might say, well, gosh, like all of them are in Bemidji, which isn't true, but the vast majority are Bemidji, and of course, you know, we're here in Bemidji, that makes sense, and hopefully we're, you know, a lot of our classmates are staying in Bemidji. With that, I feel.
Thank you. All right. Chair Friends, do you have anything else to say?
Thank you.
Right, moving on to reports. Wow. We're actually gonna have the shortest meeting of the year. Okay, I jinxed it. Cabinet reports. I'm going to start first. Before I go with my report, I just have one thing to ask from you. Festival of Nations is coming up on the 13th, and they have asked. I met with a president of Festival of ISO. She has asked Students United, Student Senate, volunteers, if we can provide volunteers Friday from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. They would need help in organizing the tables and all that stuff, carrying food from the location they're cooking it at, is my understanding. There might be other things that they need help with, but moral of the story, they need volunteers on Friday morning. Chair Sawyer.
Would this count as volunteer hours?
No, because you're essentially doing your job as a student senator. It wouldn't be community service because it is Chief Staff Sanders.
I believe we talked about this because we're not going to be doing the highway cleanup. We do some volunteering as student senators. Again, this is kind of, I mean, it's not quite tabling, but
well, it
when
can
we were
count.
under pressure.
So here's the thing: there are 3 requirements: your office hours, your tabling hours every semester, and your community service hours. They're not called volunteering hours. In our constitution bylaws, they're stated as community service hours. So I would encourage you to go to the food shelf and do your community service hour, or go to a church, do your community service hour. Go to the Boys and Girls Club and do it. Helping another student organization achieve their goal or organize an event is essentially doing your job as a student senator, or just being another peer who's trying to help out another peer. Senator Shahar.
You have to stay there for the whole 3 hours, to 11, like me for an hour and 2 hours.
No, yeah, they need volunteers in that time frame. So obviously, they're not going to make you stay
So then for like
3 hours.
Okay.
For an hour if you can, and then anyone else who can volunteer for as long as they can. Chief Staff Sanders.
Just to kind of add on to that, the volunteer form has been put up onto Teams with Jelena's email address. You would fill that out and then send that to her. As well as on Teams, I noted, please CC one of the 3 of us on it so that we would know.
Thank you. But just in case you're wondering what is a form for volunteering, they started asking volunteers to actually fill out a form so that they know who's volunteering. So any takers except for Senator Shahar, Chair Sawyer? Chair Newby? Okay. Anyone else? No? Okay. Another thing related to Festival of Nations, Students United the Students United Campus Committee is actually co-sponsoring this event, and they have asked me if senators will be attending the event because the event actually has tickets. There's a $2 ticket for food. So Students United is willing to sponsor anyone who's willing to go from Senate. I just need to give them the number of people. So one,
No, I have a question.
Senator Martin.
So is this just like attending festival donations?
Yeah, it's from 4 to 6:30 p.m. You don't have to stay the whole time. Just go there, eat, enjoy the event, leave whenever you have to. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So you wouldn't be needing a ticket. I'm just writing down names who need a ticket so that I can tell Students United. Can you please raise your hand up high? Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's it. Okay. Thank you. Hearing Chief of Staff Sanders.
I was speaking with Jelena today. She mentioned that the Student Senate also has a table there. Do we know anything about that, or is it Students United that has a table?
I believe Students United has a table there, so I don't know if she's confused both the organizations, but I was not told about any table. Although I will be speaking at the Festival of Nations to address the international students and thanking them for organizing such a great event, which I've witnessed in the last 2 years. It's an amazing event. Definitely promotes our values of diversity, equity, and inclusion, celebrating different cultures. And carrying on with my report, we have been working on the affirmative consent promotional video. We shot the video at the affirmative consent panel. Editing is almost done. I have 10 minutes of work left, so we should be seeing the video up on our social media either by tonight or tomorrow early morning. So I encourage you to take a look at that and provide us with feedback so we can make the next video even better. We have another video coming up, the Love Has No Label video, also hopefully by the end of this week. Any questions related to that? Great. With that, any other cabinet reports? Chair Sawyer.
One thing is a diversity contest that our wonderful city manager, Matthew Spitzels, was able to manage and get going is now going to be an annual thing. So I would like to congratulate him on that. Alongside, alongside of that, I went to the community meeting today called Living Well, Working Well with our advisor, Nina Johnson. And we were conversing and talking about the fact that combining their like-minded idea of the room called the relaxation room with the idea of the prayer room. And we found out that they would not be able to coexist with each other just because of needs of one room with another. So we are in the process of actually creating the bill for the prayer.
Could you elaborate on why do you think they can't coexist? Did you guys discuss it in your meeting?
One of the reason why I found out was because there's going to be stuff like a TV there, chairs, couches. There was going to be more of like again relaxation. They're thinking about putting like yoga in there so that people could like relax. And with the fact that the prayer room, we're thinking like more groups would want to go and like pray together and celebrate their religion together. So it would be in the best interest of those students to have a bigger room anyway.
And I don't know that I completely agree with that interpretation in the sense that I feel like part of the conversation was having a better understanding of what the needs are for the prayer room and how it would be, do we need groups, or is it really just individual students? What are the expectations and the needs of people from different faith backgrounds? Because there was some discussion of, will people be upset with symbols from different religions being present, you know, that kind of thing. So to me, I walked away from that conversation very much feeling like we need a good assessment of what the needs are for that prayer space. And maybe they can.
Chair Friends.
I think before we bring you to a survey or something to see what students actually need for the term before we make it on our own, I think that the students input is the most important thing because we don't know what every student wants.
I do agree with that. Student input is the most important input. However, we have, I personally have had the privilege of visiting 3 different prayer rooms in 3 of the Mesa universities, one at Winona State, one at Mankato, and this past weekend, along with Chair Newby, we took pictures of the prayer room at St. Cloud State University. What it is a simple room with no furnitures and no pictures or symbols on the wall. It's plain wall, and it just has carpeting and rug on the floor. They have a small cupboard where some of the prayer mats are stored. Basically, it's a place where people can come together and pray, and also they have holy books from different religion, and are there any other instruments or any other tools that they need in order to fulfill their praying needs. And that's very similar to what I've seen in the other 2 institutions as well.
I kind of just add on to what I was just saying. We also took a picture of the guidelines they use and the guidelines and rules they have of the room. And I can send you that picture too, you know, Sean, I sent to Sean already. So, and the rules and policies like that, and made sure to document everything, what's inside the cupboards, what's outside, you know, like 6, 7, or 9 pictures like that. So,
yeah. One of the things that I've noticed in all 3 institutions and all their prayer rooms is that it has, once you enter the prayer room, before you enter, there's actually a list of guidelines on set of rules of what you can or what you should and should not do in there, because it's a place of prayer which students use to pray. So it's a matter of respect on how you show that respect. So those signs should be there. And you're not able to, well, one of the things that we saw is you're not able to take your shoes in there. So you have to like take your shoes off and go in there bare feet, things like that. So definitely we can talk more about that, research all these other institutions, look at the pictures, and figure out how to move forward. Any other comments, questions related to this? Any other cabinet reports? Chair Newby.
Really quick here, working on the safety letter still. Senator Tippett's being a little out of commission today, kind of got pushed back. We need some formatting issues, and we just need to approve it real quick. Should be pretty much done by the end of tonight or tomorrow if he's feeling better. When it comes to the auction, though, there is a new update in the last hour and a half. The auction will now take place from 4 o'clock to 6:30 in the Scandinavian room or Viking room downstairs. We think, as well, because there's an event the next day in the ballroom, we want to set up that before. So we're going to move. And they also want Geese and Pets in this room. And there's also an opportunity to get more people to come in, more advertising, more people points, and more conversations regarding that downstairs where there's more activity, more people flowing. So Josie and I have a meeting next Monday to figure out how we want the room designed, how we want to set up, and things like that. And when it comes to the medium and big tier auction, we're hoping to have it up here possibly, but they still might be having Geese and Pets. We might still have to have it in Scandinavian or Viking room downstairs. And I am meeting with CAP on Monday to see if they're willing to help out with the auction, kind of, just get mass people. And I'm also going to post online to see tonight on Teams to see what senators can volunteer. So we have a solid number before going to CAP to ask for their help. So that's all I have.
Should the weather conditions allow the Sunsplash event to take place outside, do you think lakeside, the area in front of the window, indoors, having a stage could be an option?
If it takes place outside, I mean,
if the Sunsplash is outside.
I can talk with Josie about that and Leah as well. And figure out what the plan is, because I think you guys just met today. That's when Josie and I met today, so maybe they have a ton plan. I just don't know what the plan is. So I'll have more conversations later, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
The reason I say that is because if, let's say, weather is great and Sunsplash is happening outside, then if you're just in the Scandinavian room, I don't know how much attention it would get from the students.
Yeah, it's a matter of what their format is, what they're all doing there, so I think Nina can really talk more about how it's formatted if she wants to. You have an idea yet?
Yeah, the plan at this point is that we'll have a lot of the event already inside, because the weather at this point is making reduces the, so it might go up. So we'll keep tie-dye outside regardless. And then inflatables, if it's above 50, put them on the second one, if it's below 50, put them on the second one. The tabling, the food and like the tabling, individual department activities will be happening throughout the city and the inside. And then caricature artists will be out there on the side lounge, and then discuss it as a center as well. So they'll focus all of the event really with hearing all the sightseeing. So regardless of the weather, it'll be probably inside. Unless the weather's really nice, we might throw like the department tables outside. I think moving it down, that was my suggestion to Josie, was like, hey, why separate uniforms? So Lakeside is going to hold more attention to the area, but I think as we figure out the Lakeside setup, I envision that there would probably be some spot for, announcements and things.
Thank you so much. That's all.
Center school still there.
I just had a question. I was wondering, so there's going to be it sounds like two separate events for the medium and large item
There's a
auction
yeah.
and the small auction. I was just curious why maybe there wouldn't be one event where who can go there, no matter how many beer points they have, can hear and bid on the small items. Then that's over with, and the people that have enough points can stick around.
Okay.
Medium and large.
So yeah, it's kind of how it's formatted right now.
Okay.
I think there's actually, I'll re-explain to make sure I'm all clear. So in the Scandinavian room, from 4 o'clock to 6:30, we'll be doing the small/buyout options. People who don't think they have a good chance of winning the medium or large tier prizes. So say you have like 2 to 3 points, you're not going to win one of the big tier prizes. You'll go in, get yourself like a little selfie stick in the Scandinavian room, and that's your prize for the day. And then we end those small/buyout options at 6:30. So we have a half hour to tabulate points, kind of figure out what we need to do and get our, all our ducks in a line. And then from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, right now we're going to put in the Scandinavian room, but it could be put up here depending on issues with pets for the medium and large tier prizes, because that's more an attractive area, more people are going to come and attend that overall, because it's less ebb and flow, more sit down structured for the medium and large tier prizes. So that's where you raise your stick. But the small buy option, like, hey, that's 3 points, I'll just take that, or like, hey, that's 5 points, sure. So that's kind of why that's being stationed throughout the event, and then at 7 and 8 it's gonna be more structured, sit down, bid, and you'll have your final tabulation points there. That's where we're asking Cap for help as well, because Cap's very well versed in beer points and how the system's run and the scores as well. So is that kind of more clear now?
Yeah.
Perfect.
That's my question. Thank you, Chair Newby.
No problem.
Chair Brown.
Just a question, or maybe suggestion, I don't know. With the beaver points, with the buyout prize, the big ones being at the very end, those people who don't win those prizes, what do they do? Like,
So
would it make sense to go kind of backwards, like do the big and then go to the small?
we kind of spaced the big out in between. So it'd be like a couple medium prizes, one of the big prizes, a couple medium prizes, one of the big prizes, a couple medium prizes, one of the big prizes, we ended like going to medium. So people will have a better idea of
That way, and then the buyout after, I don't know, just like, 'cause
Well,
there might be people who would
we talked about it, and I think the reason we're having the buyout option be longer is because it's going to take more people to station and all this stuff, and more people coming back and forth. And by the time sunset, and we're keeping the buyout / medium here for 2 reasons. One, to have people get out of class earlier, so that most classes usually end by 7. There's some classes to 1 around 4:30 because this was still a class day. They can still attend the later option as well, and they have a better chance to get that. So it gives more a chance for students to show up, even though not many might. And also another thing was to try to help people stay at Sunsplash a little longer and to help attendance through the entire event.
was one of the things Josie and I talked about. So I hope that answers your question.
And also, viewpoints, the left out viewpoints, they do not transfer to next academic year. They transfer from fall to spring, but not from spring to fall. Just like your viewpoints. Right, any questions? Any other questions for Chair Newby? Any other cabinet reports?
Sorry, I do. Basic question, sorry, but how do I know how many data points I have? You should be getting an email here sometime soon, hopefully, as well as you'll be told right when you enter in to the small buyout option where I have a table outside with things like, oh, that's what tells you you have 4 points. And hopefully those emails get sent out for the, like, I think it's the Monday before Sunsplash, like the Friday before Sunsplash as well, so everyone has a total. So, thanks, no problem.
Thank you. Other cabinet reports? Chair Brown?
So debate is tomorrow. I hope to see all your lovely faces there. 5 o'clock, Deputy 262 is opening around those movie pizza, so come eat them. Along with lemonade and water and stuff like that. It's a good opportunity to see. I mean, we know these guys pretty well, but to answer some tough questions from the rest of the student body. There will be live tweeting stuff available too, so if you got like questions, you can always do that. And then next week, starting Monday, 8 o'clock-ish, elections open. It's gonna be on Beaver Link. And then we're gonna have tabling downstairs too for students to vote. We'll probably need volunteers to help with that as well. I'm sure you've seen like posters, and we're getting more active on the social media. Gonna start boosting stuff soon, so just continue to share that. We stay informed. We did the Love Has No Labels video stuff, part of it. We still have some left to go. Also, we had the sit-in today for the affirmative consent, and that went pretty well. We handed out the rest of the bracelets. I think we probably got like 100, 150 people, probably more.
Yeah.
It was pretty successful. Thank you for all those who were there. I think that is it. Oh, applications for senators close tonight at 11:59. If you're wanting to join next year, kind of not sure, whatever, get it in just in case. And then chair applications close the 16th.
Vice President Stockman.
Question, I guess, to either you or Rafid. If Kale is sick still, how will that
For the debate?
Yeah.
That is not a question for me, that is a question for the Elections Commission. I would yield to Senator Annenberger.
I would have to discuss with the rest of the commission, but my own opinion, I would probably say that Rafid would be in the place of Kale for the duration of the presidential debate, because I would assume that Rafid knows their platform as well as Kale does. So I think that would be the best option, but I would leave that up. I would ask the whole commission before I make an official decision.
Thank you. So for the debate, please ask your friends, announce it in your classes tomorrow morning. I expect each of you to bring 5 more people with you. You should. It's super easy to get 5 people to come and have green meal pizza. You know, it's gourmet pizza. Any other cabinet reports? Seeing none. University committee reports? Seeing none. Student organization updates? Chair Newby.
And then like Geek Club, and the only thing they had for student senate was a Saturday question, so I drafted them to Saturday. Besides stuff.
We do.
No, we only need quorum to vote.
No.
And we're not voting on anything other
we
than
need quorum.
to adjourn.
Okay, we need quorum to have the meeting. We currently have 13 people. That is our quorum. Continue.
That's all I have.
Any other student organization updates? Chair Sawyer?
I met with Bemidji Choir, and they said we're doing a good job trying to help them out and everything, so they thought it was really cool that I went over and asked if they was in.
Did you get any feedback, what they need?
No.
Okay.
They're pretty busy.
Senator Rapp?
I got in touch with the president of the fraternity here, and they pretty much said how they want to be more involved with stuff on campus, so I've been kind of throwing ideas their way, but it's, yeah.
Thank you. Senator Enberger?
But Friends Club doesn't.
Okay. Senator Martin?
I actually do
Thank you. It's a good effort that we started this year, reaching out to all the student organizations. I think whoever, we have candidates from both tickets, so whoever becomes the elected officials next year, I would advise that please continue doing this, as we have received immense, great feedback from all the student organizations that they appreciate this effort. Advisors report.
The only thing, so speaking of student organization, so next Tuesday is the BSU Club and Organization Leadership Celebration. So it'll be in the ballroom from 5 to 7 p.m. Really nice food, nice atmosphere to celebrate student accomplishments this year. Between BeaverLink, like some data pieces, and then of course our Office 360, we've received some feedback that students might not be as aware of because it's been sort of an invitation, like try to communicate via BeaverLink, etc. So spread the word. Please come, especially if, on behalf of the Student Senate, to celebrate your accomplishments this year. If you've reached out to some student organizations and have those contacts, share the event with them as well and encourage them to participate. So free food, wonderful celebration of student accomplishments. They'll also be giving out the Outstanding Student Leader Awards. So there's advisor, student leader, club organization, and event of the year. Some really cool nominations. So looking forward to celebrating this weekend. That's all. 5 to 7 p.m. Tuesday ballroom leadership celebration.
Just to add to that, I've been asked to speak at the event, so I will be speaking along with probably Dr. Grant. And news for all of you, we will be giving out awards for student senators, because each year there's the presidential award and 2 presidential awards and a meritorious award that we have to hand out. So you should attend and see who gets the award among yourselves. That's an incentive.
What time?
Yes, Chair Brown. It's from 5 to 7 p.m. on Tuesday, the 17th.
Sam, that's a good question. Business casual, kind of like meeting there would be fantastic, just because it will be a little more upscale feel.
Right. Other reports. Senator Enberger.
All right, so first, I was able to talk with State Representative Matt Bliss and State Senator Justin Eichhorn this last Friday. And Representative Bliss brought up a good initiative that he wants to see here at BSU. He wants, like, a group of students, doesn't necessarily have to be student senators, but a group of students to come together and brainstorm ideas on how to make student living more affordable. And that could be any of your expenses. It could be tuition, books, meals, housing, literally anything that has to do, anything that you spend money on. How can we make that less expensive? And so he wants to see this group of students come together and brainstorm these ideas so that eventually we can come to him and be like, hey, this is what we thought. That was that. The second thing is I have this nice little sheet of paper here for the tabling hours for the voting polls for next week. And we currently, between me and the rest of the Elections Commission, we have almost all of it filled out. We only have Monday from 1 to 2, Thursday from 11 to 1, and Friday from 1 to 2 open. And so as long as you are not one of the candidates running for president or vice president, you can volunteer to be part of this.
And if you're not part of any of the candidates' campaign as well.
The days again were Monday at 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock, Thursday 11 to 12 and 12 to 1, and Friday 1 to 2.
Do you want to just have them sign up after?
Yeah, I can just come and see me after the meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any other reports? Seeing none, points for the good of the order. Chief of Staff Sanders.
I'll just jump in right here. If you want to pull up Teams, I will show people how to follow. And I'm just mind doing that so they can follow along on the screen. So obviously, click on the actual team, click on General. Just click on General. Okay. Oh.
This is where you go.
Yep. Okay. So you see on the very bottom of the 3 dots, you can do follow, unfollow, and if you wouldn't mind going back down to where that is. If you see that little box thing, what I was going to show you next, right next to unfollow, on the actual activities portion of the page in the upper right hand corner, there's also that symbol. So just make sure when you click that symbol or you click on those 3 little dots to follow the activities.
On the top right corner.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
I found it.
That I know.
Great. Any other points for the good of the order? Enjoy the debate and vote on Monday. Vote your conscience. May the best candidate win. With that, Chair Brown.
I motion to adjourn this meeting.
Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Rapp. There's dissent to adjourning the meeting. Seeing none, meeting adjourned at 5:56 p.m.